I'm Heidi Poulter. I've been studying photography here at Catc over the past 12 months. During this time I've created what I consider a strong body of work in lifestyle travel editorial. That's the area that I want to go down with my photography. That's my preferred path. I'm a very outdoorsy type person. I've done a lot of travel in my life, and and I just like to capture what's out there in nature. So a lot of the images that I have in my portfolio are, travelling like a road trip, capturing the golden colours of the canola fields and things like that. A lot of portraiture, domestic portraiture wise, I love taking photos of kids and teenagers using natural light. I see light well, and tend to capture what the people are all about in the images, which is something I'm grateful for. That's where my passion lies, with those two areas really. Where do I go from here? I've actually been doing some volunteer work, shooting for some art galleries and doing sort of documentary style photography, which is building up my experience and networks of people in the artistic world. In my folio there's one series of images which is I call Forest Fairies, and what I wanted to try and capture is 3 little fairies playing in the forest. It was somewhere that I love going to, and for years I've watched the sun go down behind the trees, and I admire the lighting that's there. It's so beautiful, and I wanted to capture a little bit of a fantasy story, as I said, with 3 little girls, which is also borders over to domestic portraiture. Or it could be, some sort of an editorial, like fashion editorial for kids, something like that. And so as the story goes, I'm sitting there in my little chair watching the sunset in the afternoon, as I do quite frequently there, and it was like a little mystical thing happening before me. Some little fairies came and they're playing in the forest, enjoying themselves. They're aware that I'm there. And they're putting on a little bit of a show for me, and I watched them for a period of time, and I just so happened to have my camera handy and captured them. And then they run off into the sunlight, skipping, holding hands. When I was shooting my folio, I took myself out to the bush to travel and have a look at different properties and that sort of thing, and made my way into people's gardens to try and capture that raw, rustic feel of the bush. There's other shots that I've got in my folio where there's a little pot belly stove with smoke coming out of it. What I wanted to capture was, so that you could smell being there. Just to actually, when you're having a look at these images, so I wanted people to sort of feel that they're actually in that atmosphere, smelling the smoke, and I think I've managed to do that. And there's one of a rusty old truck, which I call Hobo's Ute. It's an old Bedford truck, and it's all rusty, and it sort of shows a little bit of the harshness of the Australian bush. So when I shot my folio, I've wanted to try and capture that iconic Australian lifestyle. So I've gone to surf and turf locations, locations where I can get that real bush atmosphere, and to try and capture that harshness of the bush. On the alternate, gone to surf locations where I've captured pictures of young teenagers surfing, doing the things that they love to do at their age. Photographing teenagers is one of the hardest things you can do, but if they're doing something that they like doing, they're happy to be photographed, and I managed to capture some really good shots of groups of teenagers throughout that, showing the Australian iconic lifestyle, and that's basically what I shot my folio on.
Hi, my name is Janusz Woźny, and my folio is basically fine art photography. So I see my photography as essentially a journey of self-discovery. It's also quite spiritual for me. I think it was way back in my teens that I started asking questions about the nature of things, and I think it was sparked off by reading science fiction books by writers like Robert A. Heinlein and Isaac Asimov. These guys really questioned the nature of reality, the social norms and questions of religion and philosophy. I think they inspired me. And after that, I discovered Zen Buddhism. There's a famous Zen koan, which is a riddle, and it goes, who am I? And they say that if you actually really answer that question fully, you become totally enlightened. My art is essentially a reflection of my questions. Who are we? What does it mean to be human? What's the origin of our psyche, of our consciousness? Questions of beauty. What makes something beautiful? What makes something ugly? Those deep, gritty questions. Ultimately, I'm hoping to create, through my art, an invitation. Basically, it's an invitation to the audience on a journey. Not just my journey, but an invitation to take their own journey. Inspiration for my series, the actual imagery, comes from my poetry. I use my poems, and I don't use the poems as a literal device. My images are not an interpretation of my poetry. Rather, my poetry is like a pebble in a pond, and the images also the resulting ripples. I try to work in series, so each series is basically a development or exploration of an idea. The series is called The Wild Girl. She is brave and crawls into the tight crevices between the ticking of the clock, and finds herself wild, running with primal lust inside ancient visions. The brittle bones of trees grind her feet and scrape loose her sediment of sanity. Through the mist of grayscale silence, she can hear the call to witness her original face. It's a series that looks at our connection to primal energies, the aspect of our psyche that exists before socialization, before language. Basically, us being at one with the wild, at one with nature, connecting to our origin. Last breath. It's like how I would imagine deep diving to be. I slowly wave goodbye to the light, limbs falling in a fading blue universe, which rejects its hue more firmly by each fathom. All memories get squeezed out with cold indifference. Mind dissolves into silence. An ugly fish waved back a slow greeting. I have to trust that my skin will not pop like a grape globe between molars, with a pip of my soul spat out in the churning waves of mastication, at the shore of the gates above, or below as the case may be. This is my last series for the Folio, and it's called the Mask series. And for me, it's the most difficult series to talk about. It has many layers. In fact, it's all about layers, and they represent the complexity of our own layers. I think we can become very vulnerable when we expose ourselves to the world. I use nudes in the photos. The freedom and honesty of the nude often leaves us unprotected against the harsh world. We can become very vulnerable when we expose ourselves to the world. The freedom and honesty of the nude leaves us unprotected from the harsh world. There's a saying, to hide behind your expression. We all wear masks to some extent, presenting only a controlled part of ourselves, often in fear of judgment or rejection. We protect ourselves with our masks. They become symbols with which we interact. Sometimes we take off one mask only to reveal another underneath. And that's our complexity. We have many layers. With my work, I'm hoping to become collected. I'm hoping to exhibit through galleries, maybe even sell prints online, basically to explore the world as an artist.
My name is Catherine Marie Scalia, and my genre of photography is fashion photography and editorial. I got to enter a new world every time I did a photo shoot, like the ice sort of queen photo shoot. That was really fun. Got to like roll around in glitter for pretty much an hour. That was pretty cool. But yeah, pretty fun process. I think you can see that in my photos. To be honest, when I first started my folio, I went through like a really dark emotional stage of my folio. I wanted to do fine art originally, and I think most of my classmates would agree, like I really did shock them when I did all my dark series. Inspiration for my concepts came from Barbie. Yeah, like everyone knows I love Barbie. I have about 60 Barbie dolls like in the garage as we like speak.
My name's Nate J, and I am a photographer, and my folio was based on editorial fashion, along with some domestic portraiture as well. The way I went about it was coming up with a concept, coming up with an idea, and finding out how I was going to try to portray that through a photograph. So a lot of scouting, looking for locations, looking for the right models, clothing, makeup, everything to try to come up with the right result. So that was my whole thought process. So also, gained a lot of inspiration from images on the internet and to develop reference photos and mood boards. I get inspiration from lots of girly magazines, I guess you would call them. So I could probably see my stuff in Yen or Frankie or Oyster or Spook or any of those kind of smaller independent type magazines that kind of wanted some fresh photo shoots and not so much high-end fashion, but yeah, still fashionable. I think the best experience was actually getting the prints printed, so seeing them in real life, being able to touch them, printing on particular stock and just seeing how it all kind of came together, and then putting it in a folio and then seeing, I guess, people's reactions once we presented them was probably the most rewarding. I mean, you go through this whole lengthy period of starting with a concept in your head and then trying to develop it, and then for it to actually come out and for people to be able to engage with the photo or react in a positive way is exciting. That's what you kind of want, I guess, out of a photographer. You want people to be able to go, well, that's an amazing image, that makes me feel this way. Yeah, I definitely think what I produced was what I set out to do. I said this whilst presenting my actual folio to the class, was that I thought I'd done everything I could do to get to where I wanted, and I was 100% happy with each shot that I came out with in my folio. At the moment, trying to find some assisting work. I'm fairly young photographically, but I'm willing to learn, and so I'm just willing to find some assisting work, paid or unpaid, to really learn from someone who knows what they're doing, and gain that confidence that I think we're all kind of wanting.
Hi, I'm Grace Johns, and my folio is in the fashion editorial genre. It was a pretty big process. Because I was doing fashion, I had to organise the photo shoots before I could actually do them. So it was, first I'd have to find a model and then a makeup artist, and I'd try and find a hairstylist. And then after that we'd have to organise time that everyone could come to do the shoot, and location, depending on if it was studio or not, and then I would have to try and find clothes for the model to wear, and generally an idea that we were going to shoot with if I didn't have that beforehand. And if I did have it beforehand, then I'd have to find a model that really suited the style I was going for. And then actually capturing it usually took a shockingly minimal amount of time, especially in studio. On location could go for a bit longer. And then it was just taking it back and editing, and it would probably be actually making the photo, like actually taking the photos themselves when I was like in the zone on the shoot with the model and everything. Just when everything had come together perfectly, I just love that feeling, and just when you take a photo and you go, oh, you know, got it, nailed it. And I just do a little bit of a happy dance during the shoot. And yeah, that's what I really love, when everything comes together and you're actually in the zone, taking the photos, everyone's working. It's pretty awesome. For a few years now, I've been just looking at these photos and tearing them out of magazines and sticking them on my wall or in like visual diaries and stuff like that, because I just love them and I like to stare at them and they just make me feel happy. So that was my inspiration, that I wanted to create images that were the same as that and that I would like to look at pretty much. I suppose it was a bit of the photos have a bit of a romantic, vintage and very feminine feel to them. It was an amazing experience to have the ad in Frankie magazine, and so my next goal would probably be to get Frankie to hire me to actually shoot an editorial or something like that. Yeah, there's probably two that are my favourites from these sort of crazy shoots that took a huge amount of organisation. The first would be this photo from the Russell Hotel, which is just near our college in Circular Quay, and I just walked up and asked them if I could take photos in one of their rooms, because it just has this beautiful wallpaper and it's just really cute. And thankfully they said yes, and so I got a model in and a makeup artist, and it all came together, and we took a shot of her just sitting on this bed with this beautiful wallpaper, and there's just something about it. I think it's a very lovely moment. Also, there's a shot I love from a shoot I did in Orange, where I am originally from. I went home for a bit of a holiday and decided I wanted to do a shoot, and that I wanted it to have cows in it. So I had to call all my friends saying, do you have a cow, and would it let me near it, and a model near it, and I had to find a model who'd be willing to like model with the cow. And then I also went to a house that I always drive past on my way in and out of Orange, and knocked on their door and asked if I could use their front yard to take some photos. Not with the cow, that was separate, because it had a beautiful Dairy Creek sign, and I thought it'd all work together. And there's just this really simple photo of this model just in front of like a hedge, but it just all sort of looks nice, so I like it.
G'day everyone, I'm Tom, I created a fashion folio, and in the beginning I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to create, but over the process of creating my folio, I sort of developed an area of photography that I enjoyed, which was shooting people, basically, in particular shooting fashion. I also discovered that I like to shoot portraiture and shoot people, and that's probably the way that my folio sort of... When I'm creating an image, I like to organise, I like to be well prepared, but I never have an expectation of what the final image will be. Or throughout this process, I haven't had an expectation of, in my mind, knowing what I wanted to create. Throughout the process, I've used different models, used different hairstyles, just experimented with a lot of different things. I experimented with a lot of different lighting sources, and I also experimented with the way the light interacts with people, and just tried to grow and learn more through the process. I had no idea what my folio would be in the beginning, so what it's turned out as is really a surprise in a way, but it's a great surprise, and I'm loving everything that I've got in the folio. Oh, in the future I hope to be shooting for magazines, shooting advertising for companies, for magazines. I'm still growing as a photographer. My style's still evolving, so I don't have any set dreams yet. But I would love to be shooting full time for magazines.
Hi, my name is Jade and my folio is editorial fashion with an influence of arts. So I really like black and white photos and I really like to play with contrast. So I decided that I'd try and use natural light to create good contrast because I don't really like using studio equipment. I worked with the makeup artist for one shoot, which was pretty fun because we did some interesting stuff with eyelashes and lips, which was cool, but other than that I kept the makeup pretty basic. I kind of wanted a more natural feel. I was more going for an art feel with the lighting and contrast. I really love this photo, and it's because it's got high contrast and it's kind of worked out perfectly. It shows form and movement and kind of shows powerful women, which I really like.